Define phase, lean enterprise, history of lean, lean pioneers. The list here shows names of individuals who have had major contributions to the concept of lean enterprise. The list includes Frederick W. Taylor, Henry Ford, Sekichi Toyoda, Kiichiro Toyoda, Eiji Toyoda, Shigeyo Shingo, James Womack, Daniel Jones, Anand Sharma, Michael George. We will look at the details of each of these contributors in the following discussion. Let us now take a look at each of the lean pioneers in detail. Frederick Winslow Taylor, one of the most important influences of the 20th century and most lasting since the Federalist Papers. These were the words of Peter Drucker about Frederick Taylor. In 1977, the American Management Association considered the top 71 contributors to management thought and practice, and Taylor ranked first, receiving 31 votes. Henry Ford received the second most votes, with just 3. Mr. Taylor's books were considered vital during the economic recovery of Japan after World War II. Born in a wealthy Philadelphia family, Frederick Taylor chose to be an engineer. His career started working as an apprentice in a machine shop and later became a foreman. He obtained a mechanical engineering degree from Stevens Institute of Technology in 1883. His focus was always on improving the methods of work and achieving efficiencies of the shop. This characteristic no doubt led him to develop his own system and thus be called the father of scientific management. Frederick Taylor was also known as an efficiency expert. He was the original time and motion studies specialist. He propagated the application of scientific methods to obtain maximum output. This was accomplished by having management in control of the workplace and by detailing the minute routine of the worker. The complexity of the job was removed through operational analysis. Thus, he could take a person from the street and train that person to do a simpler operation. Work now required less brains, less muscle, and less independence. Taylorism was the application of scientific methods to obtain maximum efficiency in industrial work. In his book, The Principles of Scientific Management, Taylor emphasized that the employer and the employee must both prosper. One can have high employee wages and low manufacturing costs. Maximum prosperity can exist as a result of maximum productivity. Some key Taylor concepts are: understand each element of the task, select, train, and develop the worker, have a division of work between management and worker, cooperate with the worker to follow the procedure. Some select highlights of Frederick Taylor's career are: 1878 to 1890, he was at Midvale Steel, his earliest contributions. 1883, BSME, Stevens Institute of Technology. 1898 to 1901, consultant to Bethlehem Steel. 1901 to 1915, spokesman and author on scientific management. 1906, president of ASME, or the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. Henry Ford, 1863 to 1947. Henry Ford was born and grew up on a farm near Dearborn, Michigan. The early part of his career included a job as an apprentice machinist, a sawmill operator, and an engineer. In 1883, he became the chief engineer for Edison Illuminating Company, and later left this organization to found the Ford Motor Company. The introductory car of the Ford Motor Company, which was founded in 1903, was the Model A. The Model T was created in 1908 after 20 design changes. Ford vehicles were designed for both the ease of manufacturing and use. Vehicle parts were interchangeable and simple. The common man was able to drive and repair his own car. In 1927, the Model A was launched to meet the features offered by other U.S. competitors. Henry Ford was known to be a master of mass production. The successful implementation of the assembly line at the Highland Park plant in Detroit in 1913 reduced costs and increased productivity for the Ford Motor Company. These reduced manufacturing costs made cars more affordable for the American people. In 1908, the workers required an average station task time of 514 minutes. With improved work techniques and time and motion studies, the average task was reduced to 2.3 minutes. In 1913, the introduction of the assembly line pushed the average task cycle time down to 1.19 minutes. This was accomplished by reducing the complexity of the tasks. The operator did not need to be a skilled craftsman. It must be noted that the use of the assembly line resulted in a labor turnover rate of 380% in the beginning of 1913 and 900% by year's end. On January 4, 1914, wages were doubled to $5 per day. The increased wages resulted in a much improved retention rate. In 1915, the Highland Park plant had 7,000 workers, and there were 50 different languages spoken in the plant. Therefore, the reduced complexity of the tasks aided in the training of new workers. Henry Ford did not just focus on managing the internal resources of the plant. He also sought to reduce costs and increase productivity by controlling the costs of raw materials. The River Rouge plant near Dearborn, Michigan was a great example of vertical integration. Ford Motor Company had a steel mill for producing steel, a glass factory for making windshields, rubber plantations in Brazil, and iron ore mines in Minnesota. Ford also owned the ships that carried the ore. Some basic facts on the River Rouge plant for the year of 1930. There were 81,000 employees, 6,952,000 square feet of production space, $268,991,552 in investment costs. Henry Ford was an advocate of reducing waste in every operational area. Some examples include using straw from his farm to make Fordite for steering wheels, reworking and reusing worn steel rails, remelting scrap steel at the River Rouge plant, reworking broken tools and equipment, converting used paper, rags, and hardwood into binder board. Mass production techniques involved the interchangeability of parts, interchangeability of workers, simpler tasks, and better organization. These techniques were widely used for 60 to 70 years and were adopted by companies in North America and Europe. Some highlights of Ford's accomplishments include 1896, built his first automobile, the quadricycle. 1903, founded the Ford Motor Company, serving as the vice president. 1913, started the first moving assembly line at the Highland Park plant. 1918, constructed the world's largest industrial complex, the River Rouge plant. 1919, one of every 3 cars purchased is a Model T. 1927, the 15 millionth Model T was produced. Sakichi Toyoda, 1867 to 1930. Sakichi Toyoda was a businessman and was called the king of inventors. He was a carpenter by trade and thus able to work with his hands. He had his first patent in 1880 and in 1887 invented the first Japanese power loom. Because other members of the Toyota family and friends were in the cottage industry of weaving, this led him to try to reduce the amount of manual labor and effort required for weaving. For his efforts, he used a steam engine as the source of power for the looms. As an engineer, he spent many hours working and reworking the steam engine to operate properly, and then to link to the looms to obtain a power loom. A prime concept used at Loom Works was jidoka, automation with a human touch. This invention was designed to stop the loom whenever a thread broke. A human did not have to always be present to oversee each loom. This enabled workers to handle more than one loom and provide more value-added work. He followed up with the founding of Toyota Automatic Loom Works in 1926. In 1929, the sale of the patent rights to the Platt Brothers of England for 100,000 British pounds, or 1 million yen, or around $500,000 US, provided the research funds for entry into the automotive industry. Kiichiro Toyoda, 1895 to 1952. Kiichiro Toyoda was the son of Sakichi Toyoda and second president of Toyota Motor Company. He was a mechanical engineering graduate of the Tokyo Imperial University with a focus on engine technology. In 1929, Kiichiro Toyoda went to England and negotiated the patent rights to the mistake-proof loom. The funds from the sale helped to finance the automotive efforts of Toyota Automatic Loom Works. Kiichiro Toyoda made a tour of U.S. auto plants in 1929, followed by his own research efforts on motor vehicles in 1930. In 1935, the company was able to produce 3 Model A1 passenger cars. During that year, the government mandated the building of trucks, causing the passenger car activities to end. There were 18 Model G1 trucks built by the end of 1935. The Toyota Motor Company, TMC, was spun off as a separate company in 1937. From the beginning, the concept of just-in-time was used. Due to a lack of materials, this concept had to be used for economics and to increase cash flow. Mr. K. Toyoda was very much influenced by his trips to Ford plants and by seeing the supermarket process of restocking goods on the shelves. Toyota Motor Company faced bankruptcy during the post-war years due to inflation and credit management problems. The situation even led to the layoff of workers and to a series of strikes. In a classic show of the sense of obligation and responsibility, Kiichiro Toyoda took responsibility for this failure and resigned as president. By 1950, after 13 years of manufacturing, 2,685 automobiles had been produced by TMC, compared to 8,000 per day from the Ford River Rouge plant. Kiichiro Toyota was asked to return as president in early 1952, but died suddenly within the year at the age of 57.